Hello, I'm Daz, and this week's episode is a continuation from my historical paranormal episode 71 video on Bloody Mary. As promised, we'll talk about mirrors, as we've done in the past, how they can be portals and connections to communicating with the spirit world, and we'll get into it after a message from our sponsor. Friends, the world is becoming more unglued by the day. Local consequences are now showing up. We're seeing sky-high gas prices, higher food prices, shortages, and more. How should you respond? Go to preparewithdaz.com and secure long-term emergency food storage from My Patriot Supply. Global supply chains could break down very soon, so today is the day to act. My Patriot Supply is by far the largest preparedness company in America. They're in stock and shipping quickly in unmarked boxes to your door. Their emergency food lasts up to 25 years in storage. When you need it, it will be there. Act now, save $150, and get free shipping on their 3-month emergency food kits. These kits provide breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks, totaling over 2,000 calories a day. Every family should have at least 1 to 3 months supply of food per person. Go to preparewithdaz.com, save $150, and get free shipping on your 3-month food kits. That's preparewithdaz.com, preparewithdaz.com. Mirrors. Many like to look in them, see if there's any flaws, make sure they look okay. Some for vanity. Some like what they see in the mirror, some don't. Regardless of what you think of mirrors and if you're into them or not, there are legends around mirrors, such as Bloody Mary, the Candyman, and so forth. Many popular series, such as Supernatural, have picked up on the fascination with mirrors and played into it. In Supernatural Season 1, Episode 5, the mirror is used to kill Mary Worthington, who died in front of a mirror with her eyes removed. Her soul was sucked into the mirror, and she used that to travel from mirror to mirror to kill her victims. Through the mirrors, Mary was able to see the true reflections of her victims, including their secrets. If those secrets included death, she would then kill them. If you watched my episode 71 of Historical Paranormal that aired Sunday, you'll know who Mary Worthington is and a little bit of her backstory. At the end of the episode, Dean mentions that smashing all of the mirrors must have cost them 600 years of bad luck. Sam does mention at one point that the lore of mirrors trapping the souls is the reason for the bad luck if the mirror is broken. The real lore and superstition about mirrors is a little bit more complex. I will say that I've noticed on major radio stations, the song Heat Waves is popular by Glass Animals, and I do not find that to be a coincidence, and I think there's a spiritual connection. I just want to throw it out there, personal opinion I haven't heard yet. So I do find the song catchy, but when he talks about heat waves, which you know are naturally occurring in a hot environment, and he says swimming in the mirror, he talks about a vision. The whole song is about, it seems, either unrequited or lost love, and it's almost as if he's watching his love interest through this mirror created by the heat waves. And it reminds me of scrying and the idea of trying to see the future. Oftentimes people will seek out a fortune teller or a diviner to help them figure out their future, or if there's a chance of something occurring, whether it's in the wheelhouse of a relationship, marriage, prosperity, or a career, or their destiny. The idea of trapping souls is taken from real lore. The Romans believed that life would renew itself every 7 years. If a mirror was broken, it would damage the soul of the person being reflected at that time, and the soul would face 7 years of bad luck until it could renew. This bad luck could be rectified early. American slaves had the belief that if the broken pieces of the mirror were washing in a south-flowing river for 7 hours, the luck could be cleansed. Another superstition was that grinding the shards so they could no longer hold a reflection, or bagging and burying it, would fix the issue. However, the Chinese believe that breaking a mirror is far more dangerous than a few years of bad luck. Many believe that the spirits are afraid of their own reflection, so keeping mirrors around will keep them at bay. A broken mirror doesn't have the same power and instead releases the spirits. Should a mirror fall by itself? This doesn't mean everyone is off the hook. Superstition is, some cultures says that someone in the house will die, but not exactly who. The ability for Mary to travel through mirrors in Supernatural was also based on real lore. Mirrors would be used for scrying magical purposes. Scrying was the ability to view another place or person, sort of like what I mentioned earlier about heat waves, swimming in the mirror. Mary took this one step further in the show by working her way around a town through the mirrors. Thirdly, the true reflection is based on real superstition. Many cultures throughout history have believed that the mirror would portray the true reflection of the soul of the person. Vampires wouldn't have reflections because there was no soul to reflect, so their true nature is revealed. In Bloody Mary, the true reflection meant that secrets were also heard. The final part of the supernatural urban legend involved mirrors is one of the soul being trapped after death. Jews will cover mirrors in a home where someone dies during the 7-day mourning period known as Shiva. This is to prevent the soul of the deceased getting trapped in the mirror, so the deceased can move on. Instead, other cultures and religions do the same thing. In Serb-Croatian cultures, sometimes a mirror would be buried with the dead to prevent spirits from wandering the earth. Some cultures go as far as believing that all mirrors need to be covered when people sleep. There is the belief that the soul wanders throughout the night, and there's a risk of getting trapped in the mirror during the night. I will go on to say from personal experience, I remember as a teenager, people talking about Bloody Mary. That's when I first heard about it. And again, if you watch the Historical Paranormal episode 71, you'll know that it's common among adolescents, girls going through puberty on the edge of it. And there is connections possibly to it just being that period of their life and the angst of menstruating for the first time. But I also have experiences where I've been by mirrors where I felt the presence of something in the mirror. Like, there was a hotel I was at where I looked in the mirror and the reflection I saw was not myself. And no, I'm not one of those people who am surprised by my own reflection. I have a pretty good sense of self and what I look like. But when I looked in that mirror, it was almost as if I was looking at something in me or wasn't a part of me through that mirror. Speech is the mirror of the soul. This is a quote by Publius Cyrus. Mirrors go back to the old world of scrying and magic. They are also seen as portals to other worlds. It is also said that the mirrors are windows to a parallel universe. Seeing, reading, peeping, and gazing are some, but not all names for scrying. The word scrying usually means to foretell the future using a crystal ball or other reflective objects or surfaces. Scrying is an ancient art of divination, and its purpose is to receive information through our psychic abilities by opening our inner eye or using our abilities to receive visions, messages, and information from spirits or spirit realms. Over the years, one of the most common forms of scrying is mirror scrying. It is very much used in today's society, especially by paranormal psychic circles or for rituals in the occult. Some mediums, fortune tellers, occultists use mirrors for different purposes. Some use mirrors for reading one's future or finding answers to an individual question. Others can use it to summon darker entities. Oftentimes, when people are scrying, they will get into a trance, which is an altered state of consciousness when scrying. Some people will take drugs and alcohol to deepen their trance while scrying, and use drugs like DMT or psychedelics. Some, while they're scrying, will use a tape recorder and videotape themselves scrying, or they'll take notes. Another form of scrying is water scrying. This is known as hydromancy. It's a method of divination in which water is in a bowl and ripples, producing pebble drops in a pool or a river, any body of water. The seer then observes and interprets it. Another form of scrying is fire scrying or pyromancy. What they'll do is they'll use a flame. This could be also known as candle gazing. Another form of scrying is oil lamp scrying. So similar to scrying with fire, it's called lapidomancy, and it's using a single oil lamp or torch flame. This was the most common use of divination in ancient Egypt. Some people, like the Princess of Thumb, anointed their forehead and thumbnail of a person, and then their shiny nails were much like a crystal ball or a mirror that they could see messages from. The Princess of the Hand mixed oil with black soot to make a black paste, and then used that smeared paste on her hand to foresee whatever the spirit world was telling her. The Princess of the Cup used sesame seed oil to coat the inside of a cup that was rested on its side, and used a converging mirror concave to capture and magnify the light of a candle fixed on the inner rim. Another form of scrying is cloud scrying or aeromancy. This uses cloud formations, wind currents, and movements of clouds. This is divination by interpreting winds or cloud formations. Another form is wax scrying or seroscopy. Some people ask direct questions, but some prefer older methods in which they write their questions down with a pencil on paper and pop it directly next to a bowl while meditating for an answer. They then burn a candle. The wax is then melted into a brass pot vessel and it becomes liquefied. The liquid wax is then poured gently into another bowl with cold water. The seer then interprets the wax. That may form into a face, pictures, or letters. The most commonly known way of scrying is a crystal ball or a crystal. In crystal gazing or crystallomancy, they look through a crystal ball or a polished black surface or scrying mirror, which is usually painted. It's when they take out the glass of a mirror, they paint the backing black and then they put the glass back in it so it becomes a black mirror, similar to what you see on televisions, laptops, phone screens, which people actually use their technology to scry as well. And that's why we often talk about the black mirrors that we have giving us information, feeding us things through it. Other people will just use obsidian, tourmaline, or other black stones to scry, or even non-black stones, just regular crystals. And what they'll do is they'll gaze into it until they feel like they're in a trance-like state or pictures begin to appear. Another form of scrying is blood scrying or hemomancy. The person who does it is known as a hemomancer. So what they'll do is they'll use a sterile needle and use a clean environment. They'll dispense the needles correctly in the proper sharp containers, and they'll use their own blood while using a sterile needle and syringe. And they'll prick their fingers with a sterile needle, drip the blood into a bowl of water, and gently stir the blood in the water, or drip it into the water, waiting to interpret the blood reading. Another way is tea leaf reading. Some fortune tellers use a tea leaf to interpret patterns in the leaves or even in coffee grounds or wine sediment. Another form is smoke scrying or capanomancy, and how this is done is through interpreting smoke rising from a fire. It's also a form of pyromancy. Another form of scrying, which I'm sure you've seen in a lot of challenges, like the Charlie challenge and other challenges where they made a pendulum, is known as pendulum scrying. This is where they take a pendulum by the chain and hold it between an index finger and thumb, and they rest their arm holding the pendulum on a table of a firm surface by the elbow and let the pendulum dangle above. They concentrate on the pendulum, keeping their arm and hand as steady as they possibly can, and ask questions, a yes or no answer, and depending on the way the pendulum swings, that is a yes or no. Just to note, all of these are forms of divination or scrying, which is simply trying to figure out the future and answer to an unknown question. Another way is face and eye scrying, and the way face and eye scrying is done is by reading the lines on a face, similar to palmistry, where they read the lines on your hands to decide your destiny or fate. Occlumency is when someone uses their own face or their own eye gazing, so they may scry using their own face. Another form is molybdominancy, which is a method of scrying using metal and water in a strong bowl. One melts the metal to a liquefied state and then drips it slowly into cold water. The seer then will interpret the shapes as answers to their questions. Then there's automatic writing, which is when a spirit communicates through a medium or seer in a deep like trance state. They will use a pen or pencil and water. Some people use Ouija boards, or even laptops or computers, and how it works is the spirit will move their hands across the board, or as that person is writing, the answers will come to them. Then there is dendromancy. This is where somebody uses leaves and branches of trees. The most common form of dendromancy is burning leaves and branches of the oak tree with the mistletoe and then interpreting the smoke patterns as omens for the future. There is tarologism. A tarologist is a person who uses tarot cards. Tarot readings are when they take a deck of cards and the cards have different symbols on them. It could be the Empress, it could be the Knight of Wands, so on. And depending on those cards' meaning, they shuffle them, and then whatever comes out of the deck or flies out of the deck is a message to whomever is seeking that tarot reading. And then there is mirror scrying, which is last but not least, which is probably why you clicked on the video. So this is where they use a black mirror. Usually people who do this use a full moon, but it's not necessary. Oftentimes 3 candles are lit, and much like other scrying practices, they may meditate, close their eyes to get themselves in a relaxed and trance-like state, and ask whatever questions needed to receive their answer. So I went over mirrors and also over the practice of scrying and over how some believe that mirrors are portals. Do you have any stories of mirrors being portals? And what are your thoughts on the whole practice of scrying? From a biblical standpoint, scrying is a form of divination. Divination is something that was condemned, but it is fascinating to know how, even in modern days, these ancient practices are still in use. And what do you think about my connection I made with the song Heat Waves by Glass Animals? Do you think that means anything, or do you think I'm reaching? Let me know your thoughts on the whole subject matter, and I look forward to talking to you in next Thursday's live stream at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your week. God bless.